going to switch. And Jimmy Korn, and Jimmy, you're here, I presume?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Well, share with us a little bit about creativity. It is so important for the kids who are highly creative to have those opportunities. And Jimmy, as you can see on the agenda that you have, is a band director, but he's also on the board for um, this program that I value so much. Jimmy, you're on.
All right. Like she said, my name is Jimmy Korn, and I am the band director at Corbin High School, and this is my 15th year in education. I've been a part of Odyssey of the Mind, which is a program I'm going to talk to you about since 1997. I started as a team member, and because of what that program did for me, I've felt empowered to give back to the program, which has led me to be a judge at the local, state, and world level, to be a board member here in the state, a region director, and a district coordinator for us. So I'm going to take a moment and just kind of go over what the program is and introduce you all to it, and then kind of take some questions. I'm going to share my screen. All right. Now I'm going to move everything around on my screen. Okay, so excuse the virus infection style template, but I found it kind of appropriate considering everything going on. So I kind of tailored it to my needs today using my own creativity of things. Let me get it back here at the beginning from where I was practicing. So I've kind of been sitting in the meeting here for about the past 30 minutes, and I can kind of hear the stress in everyone's, whether they're the comments on the side or from her talking, you know, us being in crisis mode right now as educators. Having to adapt quicker than a virus, finding ways to keep children engaged and learning despite all the obstacles. You know, she was talking about 8 kids with one hotspot, with a parent that doesn't speak English, or you might just have kids that don't even have internet service, or you might have kids that are just not good at sitting in front of a computer screen and learning. I think there were 2 memes that really spoke to me this week on the internet as I keep going through everything. And one was, teachers are like icebergs. At any one time, you only see about 1/10 of what they're doing. And that really spoke to me, and I think probably spoke to a lot of educators, because after I shared it on Facebook, a lot of people started sharing it also, because we're doing so much work behind the scenes right now to try to make sure that kids are getting what they need, and that we're learning what we need to do to make that effective. The other one that I kind of laughed at this week said something to the effect of, "Are you even a teacher if you haven't cried this week?" Kind of sharing that sentiment of stress as we're all getting back in the classroom. And every day, I know here in Corbin, it seems like every day there's something different being thrown down the pipe at us. Something's changing, times are changing, or the platform's changing. Just there's a lot to go on right now. So I believe gifted educators are a very vulnerable population right now. Heard her talking about that a moment ago, trying to figure out what you're going to do. Probably a lot of you are sitting there thinking, I barely connect with my students when we're not in a pandemic. So how the heck am I going to do it now with blended learning or virtual learning or in-seat learning? And how do I keep all that straight? So, which probably leads you to the question of, why should I even listen to this crazy person on the screen right now talking to me about a new program during a pandemic? Because I have 800 other things to worry about. And I asked myself that question too whenever I was thinking about presenting at this. I was like, why should I even talk to you all about this right now, considering everything going on? And the one thing that I thought of was the myth that we talk about all the time is that gifted kids will learn anyway. And I think that during this time, we have to be very careful to not allow this to take root anywhere in our education system right now, that the gifted kids will just learn anyway, and that they're going to get forgotten about during these pandemic times. But I think it's also, I had to be really honest with myself. There are times that I get caught up in what I'm doing and I try to take the easy way out and think, well, kids are going to learn this anyway. And we just have to really make sure that we stay focused on giving them the best education possible. And so what if I told you that I have a program that can meet the needs of every gifted student in every area, whether it's leadership or it's creativity, the arts, math, science, it can check all the boxes. The thing that I think is most impressive about this program is that it can adapt and be used by teachers to reach students even in our current virtual blended instructional world, which I'm going to talk about a little bit at the end. And I believe it can help you as GT teachers work smarter and not harder, because it can, to a certain extent, serve as a built-in curriculum. There's no use in reinventing the wheel when you have something you can directly hand to kids. So as I continue on here, for those of you that don't know what Odyssey the Mind is, it's an international creative problem-solving program. It engages students in learning by allowing their knowledge and ideas to come to life in an exciting, productive environment. Here are the key components to it. If teams compete, they are usually in teams of 7 members, no more than 7, usually 5 to 7. Teams compete via divisions, so elementary kids compete against each other, middle school, high school. It's sectioned off, so you're getting similar developmental ideas competing against each other. There's a cost limit for solving each problem, so it doesn't matter if you're a quote-unquote rich district or a poor district. You have $125, $145. Every problem has a different spending limit. So kids have to learn how to budget their money, and it encourages them to recycle materials and find new inventive ways to use the materials around them, which really comes in handy during a pandemic if kids are at home trying to solve these problems. The thing that I believe truly sets this program apart from others that I've come in contact with is that the solutions are 100% student products. There's no outside assistance, is what we call it. As a coach, you can't sit down and write the script for them. You can't sit down and paint the picture for them. You can't sit down and make the vehicle for them. You can lead the horse to water. You can ask them guiding questions, give them information to absorb and figure things out. You can help teach them skills, but they have to actually create the product themselves. So that really creates a lot of buy-in from the students, that they become very proud of their products, and they're able to tell you more about the learning process because they're figuring things out from their own failures and successes. So Odyssey has 2 main components to it whenever the kids begin their journey, so to speak. Odyssey has a long-term problem and a spontaneous portion. There are 6 long-term problems produced every year, and they each have a different intelligence or creativity focus. And the point of the long-term problem is for the kids to work on this long-term for several weeks or months and to solve the problem in an 8-minute presentation. So these are the 6 types of problems. First, we do a primary problem. This is for kids that are grades kindergarten through 2nd. We do not have these kids compete. If they wanted to come to a tournament and show off their presentation, we give them feedback, we encourage them, we give them ribbons and cheer for them, but we do not put the burden of competition on kindergarten through 2nd grade. We just want them to enjoy the creative problem solving process. For example, last year, the primary problem was something like fashion bug, and so they had to create a fashion show for bugs, and they had to have a creative host to the fashion show. So they found different ways to create maybe, a jacket for a 6-armed ladybug or something. I don't even know if they have 6 arms. I'm making things up right now, but they had to come up with creative costumes and such. Problems 1 through 5 are for the elementary division through the collegiate level. Problem 1 is a vehicle problem. Teams have to build a vehicle to perform certain tasks. So some years the kids have to drive the vehicle, and then some years they have to find other power sources. The picture over here on the side is actually a picture of Murray Elementary School. For the past 2 years, Murray Elementary has actually placed 4th at World Finals in the vehicle problem in Division 1. So these are kids grades 3 through 5. And they've created everything you see there. They have a really awesome program out there at Murray. Problem 2 is technical. Teams use their technical skills to build a device that performs certain tasks. One of my favorite technical problems over the past several years was called Haunted House. And the technical aspect was in the creative way that kids produce sound effects or illusions as they took you through a haunted house. Problem 3 is classics. That's my home. That's what I judge at World Finals. I answer worldwide clarifications to. As an arts person, it just hits home for me. Teams create a performance centered on classical works of art and literature. Some years they might have to recreate Da Vinci works of art in creative mediums. This next year, they're exploring worldwide fairy tales, and they have a child that goes up a beanstalk, and they get judged on how creatively they intertwine those fairy tales that they chose. So they really dig into the arts and literature in that problem. Problem 4 is structure. They have to build a small, tiny structure out of balsa wood and glue to hold as much weight as possible. Picture here on the screen is an example of that right now. This is a team from Corbin High School a few years ago testing their structure. If you look right here in the middle of that wood at the bottom, you can kind of see the teeny tiny 8-inch structure down there. And they are stacking hundreds of pounds of weight on it to test it before it breaks. Problem 5 is theatrical. I call it the Saturday Night Live problem. It's always a humorous performance that focuses a lot on theater. This year, I believe they are doing superheroes. So it's really sketch comedy and those kids that can really just perform on the spot, and it focuses a lot on the costumes and theatrical stuff. In addition to creating a solution to one of those long-term problems, teams just pick one of those to work on. At the competition, they have to do something called spontaneous, where they are taken into the room to solve a problem on the spot in front of a team of judges. They could do anything from a hands-on problem to a verbal problem. So there are 3 types. Students might be asked to name things that go up and down, for example. That would be a verbal problem. So they'll have a minute to think and some time to respond. And a common answer might be an elevator because it goes up and down. A more creative answer would be my mother's blood pressure when my friends come over for the weekend. So kids are rewarded for those more creative outside the box type answers. Hands-on, students are given materials to build or complete a task to accumulate points. You can see in the picture over here, there's another team from, I believe this is a team from Corbin. They had to build bridges between these 2 blocks, and they had to suspend items from it. And that's how they received score, was based upon the bridges between it and the items that they got to suspend from the bridges. Verbal hands-on, students make a product and they have to give responses about it. So they might be given stuff like foil and paper and toothpicks and Q-tips and boxes, and they might have to make a pet. And then they have to talk about the pet after they make it. So this really creates a lot of flexible thinking. It's called spontaneous for a reason. They have to spontaneously come up with things and be able to own that solution and be creative on the spot. So that brings me to the application of this program. This program can be structured to fit your school or your GT program. Some people use it as a pullout. I believe Garrett County used it that way this year, and Fort Thomas Highlands uses it as a pullout program. In our district and in Knox County, where I grew up, we use it as an extracurricular program here. We don't necessarily have GT teachers teaching it or doing it, but we do collaborate with our GT teachers to check the boxes off for the kids that are participating in the program. Then what I think is really awesome that we found out this year is that Odyssey can be done virtually or in a blended environment. This year, I think we all were kind of turned on our heads in March, April, and May when we all had to go home, and then everything kept getting delayed, and then everything was being canceled. Ultimately, we never went back to school. And we were able to have our regional tournaments in Kentucky for Odyssey, but World Finals did not get to happen in person. But being the creative organization that we are, Odyssey the Mind did offer a virtual World Finals last year. And we really weren't sure how that would go over because people being quarantined and being locked in their homes. But kids are resilient. And what was amazing was that we had over 900 teams register for a virtual World Finals, and they submitted tapes of their regional performances, or it looked like the Brady Bunch. Kids would get on Zoom and they each had different parts of their solution at their house, and they performed their skit on Zoom in in 7 different locations. And then they gave another video to show us up close what their props look like, how their vehicles functioned, all those different things. And it was actually very effective. I was really surprised that we were able to pull it off that quickly, the way we did. But the kids wanted to share their stuff. They wanted to show what they've been working on all year. And so we realized that Odyssey has other avenues. And as a result, this year, whenever we wrote problems, we tried to make them a little bit more friendly for a virtual world or for an at-home world, because there were some things we had to forgive and remove from the problems to make a virtual tournament happen last year. But considering our current circumstances, we tried to make them a little bit more user-friendly to be done at home. What's awesome this year about Odyssey is that we are actually offering a virtual membership separate from a traditional membership. There's a little flow chart. I would personally suggest everybody buy a traditional membership. I think virtual memberships are really awesome the way they're doing it. They have some extra flexibility that kids don't have to be from the same school on a virtual membership. You can mix age groups a little bit better. But it's for people that know they're going to be home and that they're not going to be out at all. I would say that if you're going through a school, that you purchase a traditional membership, because if you do a virtual membership, you are virtual all year. So there's no way you can do anything in person. You buy a virtual membership, we provide a virtual competition for you, and that eventually leads to a virtual World Finals. If you get a traditional membership, let's say that you start in person and somewhere along the way this year, you have to go online because of things going on, either from the governor or maybe from your local area. It's best for you all to be at home. Then we will let you take your in-person team and let them become a virtual team and still offer you a virtual competition. If there are teams that can be in person, we are still going to offer in-person tournaments. So if a team forms in person and by regional tournament, for some reason they are quarantined, you can register as a virtual team and compete virtually. And then if you're able to make it to World Finals, let's say that you advance to that point that you won the competition, if everything's back to, I don't want to say normal, because I don't know if anything's ever going to be normal again, but if you're not under quarantine at that point, you could actually attend an in-person World Finals if we're able to have it. So the traditional membership has a lot of flexibility with it this year as we're trying to look ahead to things. So how can we adapt this for you? Like I said, these all have different focuses. So if you have kids that are already identified in certain areas, you can assign that problem, if they're a math science person, assign that structure problem to them. If they're an arts kid, assign that classics or that problem 5 to them. You get kids together and give them different aspects to solve at home. You need to make this costume out of creative materials. You need to make the background. You need to be making the vehicle. And as students begin to do this on their own, they're going to take ownership of it. They're probably going to be excited to get on Zoom or Google Meet and present to you what they're doing at home, because it's real life. It's something that they can touch. It's not another worksheet. It's not another activity. It's actually a product they're applying their knowledge to and making. You can use Zoom or Google as a practice area to be able to get on there and go over the script or just talk about things and brainstorm and have a meeting. I'm a big proponent of Flipgrid. I don't know if you all know what Flipgrid is, but it's a video platform. It was originally done kind of more as I think of it like a virtual discussion board where kids don't have to type their answers. They can just use their phone or use their computer and record their answers. So in the music world and in the arts world, I use it as playing exams. So I can set the clock on the video to be, 30 seconds, and they need to play this warm up as they're playing exam. Or you can set it for up to 2 minutes, I think. So you could tell the kids that they have you can have a Flipgrid classroom or a Flipgrid board, and they can go in there and they have a spontaneous question they have to answer every week. and they need to come up with 5 things that go up or down, and you've got 45 seconds. And so you record your answer and you get to see it as the teacher, you get to give them feedback, and then others can watch the videos also and see what other kids are thinking and talk about it. So I think it's a really good interactive tool that works well for Odyssey. Here's the thing that you would not hear me say very often, but this year I think it's really important. You do not have to compete when you do this program. You can buy a membership, get all the materials, and tweak it to work for you. If you want to put them in groups of 10 and work on the problem, and you're just going to do it right there within your school and have them do that during this pandemic time because everything is so crazy, that's your prerogative. Those kids are still going to learn and benefit from this program if you have to tweak it to meet your needs. There are some rules that you have to follow if you're going to compete, but you could order this program and completely morph it to what your circumstances are at your school. So in conclusion, I think that Odyssey is a great way to adapt to the times right now in this educational landscape and reach students, especially gifted students during this time. So right now, are there any questions? Does anybody have anything? I can't see the chat box right now as I'm sharing my screen, but I didn't know if anybody wanted to unmute and ask anything.
Jimmy, I see 2 questions, and there may be more there, but we have time probably for you to answer these 2. And one is, what kind of training do teachers need to have? And the second one's a simple one. Will you share your it's not a PowerPoint, but will you share?
Oh, yeah, no problem. So training, technically, if you want me to be real technical, you don't need any training, but we offer training. This year, we're actually working on a virtual coaches training. We usually have an in-person one every year in Frankfurt at the Department of Education. And it's been a really big hit the past 2 or 3 years that we've done it. But obviously, we probably can't do an in-person one this year. So we're working hard behind the scenes to create video modules and such, and maybe even do some live Google Meet things like this that day for training. I don't care to go around and train people. I do that a lot. We have several people on our team that don't care to travel and talk with you. I've actually got a link I'm going to share in a minute for anybody that's interested that maybe wants more information or wants someone to talk with you about how to adapt it to your program and your needs. I've got a little questionnaire and someone will contact you. Probably be me. It's probably who'll be contacting you. But and the other one, yes, I have no problem sharing the presentation.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jimmy. This is an opportunity that is so great. Way back when my daughters were involved with this, and I'm a supporter completely. So,
and right there at the end, I've got it up on the screen there. If anybody wants my email, it's right there. We do have a web page and a Facebook page, and we're on Twitter and Instagram also.
Well, thank you immensely. And for anyone for whom this is a review, that's great. We see some new virtual opportunities with it. And if perchance it's new to you, it's a program that you really need to know about. So thank you.